We want every girl in this country, and especially brown and black girls, to wake up and say, I can do everything that he can do. Because when we break that, anything is possible.
I'm Kassia and with midterm elections just days away, we're taking an opportunity to re-release one of my very favorite conversations from season 1, and that's with Erin Loos Cutraro, the founder and CEO of She Should Run, a nonpartisan nonprofit encouraging women from all walks of life to run for public office. Erin has spent more than 10 years studying the subtle but significant ways that women lead differently than men, and also the systems that can be disrupted when we finally have equal representation. When we released this episode in 2020, the United States had just sworn in its first female vice president, Kamala Harris. I still remember recording that show. I remember the goosebumps. I remember the palpable excitement. I remember the inauguration artwork hanging on the wall of my otherwise white sound studio. It was momentous. It all felt so good. I, like so many women in this country, I was feeling hopeful. I remember feeling hopeful. Fast forward a couple of years, and it feels like gender equality is actually moving backwards here. And that's exactly why we're releasing this episode again, to remind us all about the responsibility that we have to show up and vote. We know that midterm elections are hugely important. We know that the outcomes of these elections can impact the political landscape for years to come. We know that getting women into office can change, well, everything. Erin is back today to explain exactly how. Take a listen.
Erin, thank you so much for joining us on what we feel is such a timely and important topic on women in politics. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, for sure. We truly just cannot imagine a more timely conversation given the inauguration of America's first female vice president just around the corner. And you founded She Should Run in 2011 to increase the number of women running for public office in the U.S., but you started your career as a teacher. So what was the catalyst in your life to move away from teaching in order to lead that effort?
I will save the many minutes of explaining the whole path, but I was in corporate America and I was volunteering on the side. I was working in organizational learning and development, still doing teaching. I was just teaching adults. And I was having a hard time connecting the way that I was when I was teaching young students. And so I was really getting my power and purpose from volunteering, and I was doing that. I was increasingly getting pulled into sort of community politics. It wasn't sort of capital P politics at that point. It was volunteer opportunities at the very local level, and I had somebody that I really trusted come to me and say, I know this is going to sound crazy, but there's an opportunity on a statewide campaign. And at this point, it was my home state of Missouri. And they said, I think you'll really like the people, and it's not a high-level position, and you're still not qualified to do it. Because I had no experience in that world whatsoever, but I went and I met with the campaign manager, and I just fell in love with her, and I met with the candidate, and the same. And it was in that interview process that I had another one of those light bulb moments of realizing something I had never realized before, which was that in this case, this woman who was running for statewide office cared so deeply about making her state better. In this case, it was a Secretary of State role, and she was very interested in safe elections and giving access to as many people as possible to be able to vote and exercise that right. And I thought, oh my goodness, here we are again, like that lever that you can pull to make change for so many people, and I was hooked. So when I saw that, when I had that moment, and then carry that forward to, the work I'm doing now and how I got here and working with women all over the country who are doing just that, they are taking that change-making fire in the belly they have, and they are applying it to change the lives of so many others. Just magical.
It sounds like it was less a glaring moment of reckoning and more kind of a search for meaning in your life that ended up having light bulb moments along the way that led you to where you are. But now that you're here, I'm sure that the meaning that you're taking from it and the impact that you're having is more than you would have assumed. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. So, I mean, the thing that there are many reasons why I feel energized to get out of bed every day and do this work, but one of them is even the possibility of being able to help others have their own light bulb moment like that to change their communities for the better. It was for me a process, and I think that's why, you know, when I stepped into the space and, you know, when I first started working in politics, I was doing so as many people do, working on a campaign or, you know, or volunteering on a campaign. And then ultimately I went and I worked with and for a number of women who were running, women who had already made that decision. And I couldn't see that path for, like, where do you go from there outside of, I was hooked. I mean, it was so exciting and inspiring to see all of these individuals who just wanted to give so much back. And eventually what I saw an opportunity. I saw an opportunity to fill a need in the landscape that wasn't previously being served, and that is creating that space for women to have their aha moment prior to the point where they need all the other great stuff that they absolutely need, which is like help running a campaign once they're on the ballot. But if they don't have that aha moment first, we're not gonna get there in terms of seeing enough women on the ballot.
So I think it's worth noting that the political climate has changed so dramatically since you founded this. I mean, you started this 10 years ago, you know, long before Trump was elected, long before Women's March in DC. How has the organization had to pivot from where you started to where you are today, given the current political climate?
Yeah, so you know, it's so interesting. When we got our start, we were really founded in a place of running a very simple program that was all about asking women to run for office. And it was before folks connected the way they do online now, and virtual communities were as robust as they are now. And, you know, we were really poking around in research and trying to figure out, which is something that's incredibly important to me, which is where is the place we can actually add value? There are a number of great organizations that operate in the space. There are incredible women doing work in this space, and men too, to try to build a diverse government. So I was really curious as to, you know, what is the solution? We know the problem, but what is the solution that is going to offer a new way forward, and that is really going to accelerate what we can accomplish in terms of seeing more women from all walks of life step forward. So what has changed over the years is, you know, it was 2015, so just the year prior to Trump being elected, that we had been building the very first virtual platform and series of courses targeting women who have not yet made the decision to run. So we spent a ton of time in the field talking to people who were heavily entrenched, people who were completely outside of politics, and trying to build something that was super approachable for the woman who was stepping into the space for the first time. We could have not even kind of predicted how important that would have been come the day after the election in 2016. So we had, somewhat hilariously now, if I look back on it, built a whole strategic plan around getting 100 women into our program by the end of 2016, when we launched in October of 2016. So if you think back to that time where this surprise election happens, there's a surprise result. And what we had in the She Should Run community was an explosion into our programs, something that we frankly could not have prepared for, which were thousands of women that stepped up in a very short period of time to say, okay, I have no idea where the hell to start, but this makes sense to